who live in the land. I am about to summon all the peoples of the northern kingdoms, declares the Lord. Their kings will come and set up their thrones in the entrance of the gates of Jerusalem. They will come against all surrounding walls and against all the towns of Judah. I will pronounce my judgments on my people because their wickedness is forsaking me. In burning incense to other gods and in worshiping what their hands have made. Get yourself ready. Stand up and say to them whatever I command you. Do not be terrified by them, or I will terrify you before them. Today I have made you a fortified city, an iron pillar, a bronze wall to stand against the whole land, against the kings of Judah, its officials, its priests, and the people of the land. They will fight against you, but will not overcome you. For I am with you and will rescue you, declares the Lord.
Yeah. Background scripture is going to come from Jeremiah chapter 1, verses 6 through 10. Jeremiah chapter 1, verses 6 through 10, and also Jeremiah 26 chapter, verses 8 through 9, 12 through 15. Jeremiah 26, 8 through 9, 12 through 15. Alas, sovereign Lord, I say, I do not know how to speak. I am too young. But the Lord said to me, do not say, I am too young. You must go to everyone I send you to and say whatever I command you. Do not be afraid of them, for I am with you and will rescue you, declares the Lord. Then the Lord reached out his hand and touched my mouth and said to me, I have put my words in your mouth. See, today I appoint you over nations and kingdoms to uproot and tear down, to destroy and overthrow, to build and to plant. But as soon as Jeremiah finished telling all the people everything the Lord had commanded him to say, the priests, the prophets, and all the people seized him and said, you must die. Why do you prophesy in the Lord's name that this house will be like Shiloh, and this city will be desolate and deserted? And all the people crowded around Jeremiah in the house of the Lord. Then Jeremiah said to all the officials and all the people, the Lord sent me to prophesy against his house and this city, all the things you have heard. Now, reform your ways and your actions and obey the Lord your God. Then the Lord will relent and not bring the disaster he has pronounced against you. As for me, I am in your hands. Do with me what everyone you think is good and right. Be assured, however, that if you put me to death, you will bring the guilt of innocent blood on yourselves and on this city and on those who live in it. For in truth, the Lord has sent me to you to speak all these words in your hearings. Lesson aims. After participating in this lesson, each learner will be able to 1, summarize the context of Jeremiah's call. 2, compare and contrast Jeremiah's reaction to God's call with that of Isaiah in reaction to his own call, lesson 1. And 3, develop a plan to encourage congregational ministry free from age discrimination. Jeremiah's call and arrest. Brother Perkins, I yield to thee.
I'll say good morning to everyone, the ones who
Good morning.
under the sound of my voice, those who are here and physically that I can fix my eyes on, and those who are virtual that I cannot see. But we thank you for being a part of us today. Jeremiah's call and arrest. I've got about 3 questions I want to ask before we start. Has anyone ever been arrested before? No? And don't want to. I have not. You would think I would have, but I have not. But I did end up in the police station one night, though, but without being arrested. I thought I was going to be arrested, but I did not. I just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time, but it wasn't from a criminal perspective. I just happened to be. I needed help. That's a good way to put it, Paulette. I needed help. Because I was a long ways from home. I was 75 miles away from home. And my mother and my parents did not know where I was. Now, how do you think that made me feel? Well, here's the part that frightened me even more so. We didn't have but one car. And I took that car to go visit someone 75 miles away. Then the engine blew up in the car. 75 miles away. There were no cell phones. 75 miles away. So what do you think I did? Anybody want to take it? Yeah, I was praying hard. I was praying very hard. But it's a wonder that I am even here today, because I was in a location that was not favorable for Black people and or African Americans, if I may use that word. It was not a favorable location, but that's where I was. And so I got to thinking, there were three things that I was told at that time, that I was thinking at that time. Number one, I said, well, why don't I go to the woods? Because the car stopped in the middle of nowhere. There was no houses, nothing. I said, I can go to the woods and make a fire, because it was cold. But then I got to thinking, I said, well, if I make a fire, I'm going to set the woods on fire, and then the whole place will burn down, and I'll get blamed for it. And then I said, well, I could go to sleep in the car. But at that time, people were coming by and breaking windows out and killing people in the car. So did I stay in the car? No. And my third option is what? Where? It's to walk. That's exactly right. I had nothing left. It's to walk. And I was in the middle of nowhere, no house, no light, nothing. I started walking. And guess what? No house. There was still no house. The house was like 5 miles away before I could even see one. But it's 2 o'clock in the morning, and I'm walking on a lonely road in K Country, I should say. Now, you see what's going through my mind, right? Guess what? Here comes a car. At that time of the night, I was going to go to somebody's house and knock on somebody's door at 2 o'clock in the morning. What do you think would have happened? Well, I don't want to think what would happen. But anyway, and I probably will get to the lesson in just a second, because I'm getting to the rest part. But anyway, so I was there. I'm walking. Here come a carload of guys. And I said, and they passed by. And I said, please keep going. Keep going. I do not want to be with you all tonight, because they were all the other persuasion.
How old were you?
I was 17. I was 17. I'm sorry, so what?
You didn't think to hide somewhere when you heard a car? Didn't you hear a car coming?
Hide? What more hide?
You said you was in the woods.
There are wolves and stuff in the woods. What do you think, I'm going to get eat up? You think that's what's going to happen?
Well,
I did what?
To take, what are your odds? Do I need to get in the car? Do I need to hide? You should have hid.
I had already walked from the car then. I was about a half a mile down the road from the car. And so when these guys
But
came
you're
by,
still young.
besides, I'm 17. I hadn't processed everything yet. So when the car passed by, it kept going. I said, please keep going. Then I saw some red lights. They stopped and turned around and came back. It was 4 of them in the car. One of me. I don't know what I thought I was going to do. I was praying hard, though, brother. Remember, David? I was praying hard. I picked up some rocks off the ground. I said, I'm not going to be the last one hurt here tonight. Somebody else is going down, is what I said. And so and so I had nothing but rocks at that time. And believe it or not, I have to say they were a godsend because I was really out there by myself. And when they picked me up and they took me to the police station, and I thought that I was going to get arrested because on the way to the police station, here's at 17. Now, what would you think if you're sitting on the front seat and there's 4 of them? The first thing I did was looked in the back seat on the floor to see if there was some rope. You know, I honestly did. I really honestly did. Because there was a lot of pine trees in that area and they were tall. And so I said, but you know, God looks after his people, believe me. And so when I was there, I got in the car, they took me to the police station. They were very nice guys, by the way. You know, they hadn't been drinking or anything. They were just guys that was out riding. And they took me, yeah, they were looking for me. I'm sure Lord led them to me. And so they took me to the police station. When I got to the police station, I was tired. The policeman asked me, did I want to call my parents? What do you think I said? That's pastor's right. I said, no. You think I'm going to call my parents at this time of the night? Wonder why the pastor would say that.
You got a beating waiting on you.
That's exactly what I thought. There are 2 reasons why I did not call my parents. Number 1 is I wasn't supposed to be out of town, 75 miles away. Number 2 is I had blown up the only car we had. The engine was blown up in the car. See, they were supposed to be going to church the next day. I went out on Saturday evening. So those 2 reasons I did not call. And when I got to the police station, and I promise, there's 2 things that come out of this that relates to Jeremiah. 2 things, I mean, when I got to the police station, he said, well, do you want some chocolate cake? What do you think went through my mind? That's exactly right. I am in a country, I mean, I'm in a part of the country where it's not favorable for blacks. And so he asked me, did I want some chocolate cake? And I was like,
But it's good and moist.
And it did look good. It looked really good. It was double chocolate too and everything. And I said, now, if I eat it, I may be poisoned. But if I don't eat it, he may arrest me. So what do you think I did? I ate it. Maurice, I ate it. And then he told me, aren't you sleepy? Did you want to lay down? I said, yeah, I would like to lay down. He said, there's a bed in the jail cell there. Now, what do you think?
This sounds like something from the Little Red Riding Hood a little bit.
The problem I had with laying in the jail cell is they change shifts. So if a new person comes in and I'm laying in the jail cell, what do you think that other person is thinking? I have been arrested. And he forgot to lock the door. So he needs to lock the door. And so,
Now we know why Perkins bakes so well.
But anyway, the next morning came when it was time for my parents to go to church. I did call. I said, I better call. And my dad answered the phone and he told me, where in the devil are you? Now, my dad did not curse, so that's why I said that. Anyway, he said, where in the devil are you? I said, I am way down in a little town called Robbins. Where in the devil is that? He had no idea. He had to get his friend to find out where it was. But anyway, he came and got me. We towed the car back. And when I got home, my mom was waiting at the door. Exactly right. That's exactly what she did. And from that day forward, she never whipped me for that. She never got a switch on me. She never blessed me out or anything. She was just so glad. She thanked God that she saw her baby come home. That's what it was. You know, I thought that was awesome. Anyway, I thought that was an interesting because most people think that she was going to whip me bad, but she did not. And so, but anyway, I use that story because Jeremiah was called probably at about 17 years old. And so I'm thinking about the fact that he's 17 and he tells God, I'm too young for this. I can't deal with this, And but God wasn't going to take no for an answer, was he? So when he calls you, the question is, do you answer when he calls? Are you prepared to receive what he has to say? But now I'm going to ask this question. Which is easier to believe? The truth or an untruth? In general.
Depending on who telling you.
You think so? In general, though, what's easier to believe? Why? It's what? That's exactly right.
Hold on.
The untruth sounds better than the truth. Most times the untruth is juicy. It got some good gossip with it, and it's just dripping with stuff. And it just sounds so much better than what the real truth is and what the real fact is. Doesn't it sound like that?
Stuff of media is made of. Wendy Williams and all of those other shows.
Well, that if you look at remember the newspaper, the Star and what's the other one?
The gossip columns.
Yeah, that's what they were. They're gossip columns. They sell so much of that stuff. It's right on the front. Well, it used to be out there. I hadn't watched much more here lately, but it's out there. So yeah, it does. So we're going to come back to Jeremiah in a minute because when we talk about believing the truth and the untruth is something that he's going to have to deal with. Now, the other question is this. If someone gets up in your face and you know you're telling the truth, but they're denying everything that you're saying, how do you deal with that? How do you face that? What do you do? And you know they're not telling the truth, but you stand there anyway. Do you argue with them? Do you hit them? Some would. I agree. You get up and so what, Jeff?
I'll just leave. I'll let them argue by themselves.
You never hit anybody if they got up in your face?
Got up in my face.
And I agree. I've seen many people fight. I've been in one fight. No, I take that back. I've been in several fights with my brother. I should say that. That was whole nother story. But anyway, those kinds of things. So trying to duck and dodge. But this is just words, just what I'm talking about. Jeremiah is going to have to deal with words when he's facing his opposition is words. And so the question is, can you stand there when somebody's looking you dead in the eye and just arguing with you and you know you're telling the truth and you know they're lying? And so how do you sit there and face and deal with someone who's doing that?
Well,
You've done that before?
I've had somebody to come up in my face like that.
Did you hit them?
Oh, I wanted to, but I just smile at them and just looked at them and I know they was lying. And so I just say, okay.
You're one of a few. Most people don't smile and laugh at them and
Wait.
walk away, as Brother
I walked away.
Reverend Averett said. You walked away?
Fist up to the face. Oh, I'm sorry.
I didn't hear the last part she said. What did she say?
I said I walked away before I had a fist up there to their face. Oh, I did. Oh, that's what I said. Uh-huh.
I didn't hear what she said. What did she say? Oh, that's what you were saying. Thank you. She was mumbling. Exactly. She wasn't very clear about that. So yeah, I mean, there are people who have to deal with that. So Jeremiah, the author is saying that Jeremiah, he's 17. He's young. So when you look at the first few verses there, he tells the Lord that, let's see. He said, I do not know how to speak. I am too young. I don't know how to speak. I'm too young. I applaud our young people who do speak, who do say. And one thing about this church, they embrace what young people have to say. You know, I don't know of a situation where they said, no, we don't want to pay attention to what you got to say. I don't believe anything you got to say. I don't pay attention to what you got to say. We don't do that I've seen yet. And so, and I find that interesting. So Jeremiah is dealing with this. He's dealing with that, that he's this age and the Lord wants him to do something. The Lord wants him to speak for him. Now, what you don't know about Jeremiah, well, I'll get to that in a moment. But the Lord said to me, do not say, I am too young. You must go to everyone I send you and say, whatever I command you, do not be afraid of them, for I am with you and will rescue you, declares the Lord. Have you ever been in situations where you were completely afraid? Similar to what I was, 17, Jeremiah, what they say was probably 17 years old when the Lord called him. But to be afraid, to be put in a place and to be afraid to do things is the questioning. Have you been there? You got something you want to say?
I had a similar situation, the same thing that happened to me. And I went, car broke down and I went to a house and there was a black person there, old man. He let me in so kindly and gently. He said,
Good.
well, my sons went to the city and they'll be right back. And I was just, I was there, on pins and needles, but I was praying. And they took me to a hotel and I stayed and I got, it worked out, but praying and that helped.
Prayer
You know.
helps tremendously.
But it was a experience. It was frightening.
Yeah, of course it was. There was another situation that I was in jail. I wasn't in jail. I just happened the car broke down again, but I was in Alabama this time and the car broke down again. And so I had to go to another jailhouse too. But I'm going to tell you that story. That's a whole other story of another day. But Jeremiah is, and think about it, 17, the Lord is calling him to do this. Now, one thing about Jeremiah that most people may not know, Jeremiah had to make a personal sacrifice. What you don't know is when the Lord called him to be the prophet, he told him not to marry. You cannot have a child. You cannot have a wife or anything like that. Can you imagine how that's, and I saw a story where Jeremiah did have a girlfriend and he had to tell her, that he could not be with her because of what God had said. Now, can you imagine how tough a sacrifice that is at 17, 18 years old? I'm going to say 17 to 20 is what one author has said. And he's got someone that he looking forward to marry because in that culture, you did marry, and that's what you did. And you had children. But the Lord told him not to, Now, what do you think weighed heavy on his mind with that? You think that bothered him? Of course it did. Yes, he's human, natural. Of course it did. Everybody else is getting married. Why can't I? What's preventing me from getting married? But the Lord had a plan for him. And the Lord had told him, which is not part of this lesson, is that the reason he didn't want him to marry is because of the desolation that's going to come. You did not want to have children or family in this place where you're going to go. And because Judah is going to go into exile. And that's just what Jeremiah is predicting. That's what he's prophesying. But the Lord was looking out for him. The Lord knew that he had a job for him to do, and he's going to be faced with all these situations that he had to face. You might know what a cistern is? Cistern. C-I-S-T-E-R-N. CD, Google it on your phone, see what it says. That's all right. I'll tell Maurice and I ask him to do it. I'm going to put you on the spot. Maurice got his phone right there. He's on it already. Aren't you, Maurice? You already there, man? A bowl?
It says a cistern is a container, most commonly an underground tank used to collect and store water from sources like rainwater or groundwater.
That's exactly right. And the thing about it is the Jewish authorities threw Jeremiah in a cistern for him to die. That's just how much they hated him and what he was saying, So Jeremiah's gone through. So now he's known as a weeping prophet. He's called a weeping prophet because he's very emotional when he talks about what he's talking about. Let's look at the next two verses. I did up to 8. Let's do 9 and 10.
Nine. Why do you prophesy in the Lord's name that this house will be like?
Where are you?
Uh,
I'm on verse 9.
Jeremiah. Oh, okay. I was on that side. I'm
I'm on
sorry.
that side. I'm sorry. On the left side.
Then the Lord reached out his hand and touched my mouth and said to me, I have put my words in your mouth. See, today I'll appoint you over nations and kingdoms to uproot and tear down, to destroy and overthrow, to build and to plant.
Okay. Now, interesting, the passage that Maurice read earlier, he talked about the boiling pot that was flipped over and was going towards the southern kingdom. The boiling pot was the northern kingdom, which was Israel. They had already messed up. They'd already disobeyed God. God has already dealt with some things with them. And what Jeremiah is trying to say, and he's telling the people at Judah, and Josiah is one of the kings at this time, but he's telling the people in Judah, if you don't get your act right, you're going to be just like the northern kingdom. And that's what he's trying to say. And so we find here that who else did somebody put that they touched their lips before he prophesied? Isaiah. Isaiah was that person. Somebody yelled it out. I don't know who it was. Oh, you.
I said Isaiah.
Oh, the pastor's wife. So she knew the answer. Oh, okay. We understand. Yeah. That means she's listening to the pastor when he's preaching. That's what that means, huh? Did you say? What? Thank you, Pauline. Great, thank you. So we find that we find this happening, that Jeremiah is dealing with this, and he's telling them what's going to happen to them if they don't act and get their act together, because they're going to have some serious issues if they don't. And so, but guess what? We'll find that. Do you think the priest paid any attention to what Jeremiah had to say? No. Why?
Because he was too young.
I
at
was
the
gonna
time.
say, he's too young.
Yeah.
What you paying attention to him for? You what they say, you still wet behind the ears or whatever that phrase
say.
is.
That's what they
Something
say.
I heard up when I was
Yeah.
coming, when I was growing up. I don't know what that meant, but anyway, nonetheless, they figured he was too young. So why they paying attention to him? And it mean anything as far as they're concerned. And who are you? You know, we're priests and scribes, and here you are, just a little young. He does, as you say.
Tadpole.
Well, he's a young prophet that's he's a young prophet that's just starting out. He's just starting out doing what God had told him to do, and God had touched his lips. Because one of the things that God did in his case is, when he said that he don't have the words, he felt he couldn't do it. He said, once I touch your lips, you just say what I have to say. I'll give you the words to say. You know, you just go and do what I ask you to do. And so, and we find that Jeremiah is got to deal, and that's why I asked the question about people getting up in your face. Can you imagine being 17 years old and you're going up to an adult who's been on the field a long time, sometimes 50, 60, 70 years old, and you're going to say something to them of what thus saith the Lord, and they say, I've been on this field a long time. Who are you to come up and say something to me about what thus saith the Lord? You know, do you know the scriptures? Do you know the scrolls of scriptures that we read? Do you know the Mosaic law and all of that? Do you know that? You're just a little young fellow, a peepsqueak, as they say. You know, you're just a young fellow that showed up on the scene. What makes you think that you know what you're talking about? Now, is the pastor still in here? Right there. Now, I'm going to ask you a question. When you first started preaching after your call, yeah, he'll need to answer this one. Yeah, but they can't hear what you're saying if you don't talk in the mic, though. When you first started preaching, Did anybody question what you had to say? Why do you think they did?
They questioned because I was new.
Okay, well, you
And they
knew.
felt that I did not have the theological knowledge
Right, right,
to be able to speak on God's behalf.
right, right.
But what ends up happening is, as you begin to speak, and
Yes,
as you begin
right,
to preach and teach,
right.
they find out in due season that you have a gift.
Right,
But,
right.
but just standing up, nah, you ain't the one just yet. That's why, and this is the other thing, and I'll say it like this. That's why it's so important for development within the church. I was able to get some credibility because I'd grown up in the church.
Right, right. That makes
So
sense.
they knew how they had taught me. They knew that I had been a part of the church. I came up through the steward board. I came through the trustee board.
Mhm.
I was a teacher in Sunday school. So when I accepted my calling, it wasn't too far away. If you understand what I'm saying,
Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
was development of the process. But when somebody wakes up one morning and says, God didn't call me to preach, and they want to step into a pulpit,
Yeah.
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 Where's the development at? Where is it that God has taken you through the process of preparing you for the call that you say God has on your life? And I think that's important. And I think, and I'll go ahead and say this, and I think we've gotten away from that especially in ministry,
Right.
where we don't hear the call stories that we used to hear back in the day.
No, you
Which
do
used to
not.
tell you
They used to
about
say-
the
Yeah.
moment he had when God called him. And when he heard the voice of God, he could tell you the day, the time, and the moment that it happened. And every now and then I have to recall my own call story that keeps me grounded.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you. That answer. So you sort of see what Jeremiah is sort of facing in a sense, is that this young fellow is talking about what thus saith the Lord. And like I say, where are your credentials? What kind of credentials you got? Where you been? I mean, you got a degree or something to talk about, to come to us and scold us? Because he was scolding them. Now, he didn't mind saying what God told him. He said, now, if you don't get your act together, y'all going to have some problems. All you got to do is look at the northern kingdom. Israel has already had their problems. Judah's not far behind because you all are being disobedient, you know. And so that's something that he's going to have to deal with. But I like this part in verse 10, after he says 9, when he says, I put the words in your mouth. It says, today I appoint you over nations and kingdom to uproot and tear down, to destroy and overthrow. Those are very strong words when you're talking to the priest of Israel, when you're talking to the Jewish leadership. And you talking about overthrow, you talking about uproot, you talk about tear down, you talk about destroy. What do you think those words do to them when you hear those words? Sounds like treason, doesn't it? It's like you're going to come in and take over. And who are you to take over? You know, you just barely pulling up your pants now. Here you are talking about overthrowing somebody. But look at the last part, but to build and plant. This is God telling Jeremiah, not only would you do that, but there's hope with anything, and that's to rebuild and plant. All he's saying, you know, God is telling him, you tell him that, but the thing about it is, if you tell them that if they straighten up and act right, you can build and you can plant. And that means a lot. But who wants to hear that when things are going so good? Now, my next question is, when things are going good, do you think you need God anymore when things are going good? Do you think you need God when things are going good? When everything's going good, nobody's mad at you, nobody's fighting at you, you got a little change in your pocket, as a professor, your change is not strange or whatever, that kind of thing. So,
Yes, you still would need God. Even with, even going through the good times, you need him, as well as the bad times.
yeah, you need him, but on average, do the people really think they need him?
Some of them don't. They
That's
think
exactly
they
right.
God anyway. Some of them.
They did what?
They think they're God.
Oh yeah, they think
Yeah.
they're God. And so they don't need God. I got what I make what I make, you know. Yeah. I got this on my own. I don't need God. You know.
So you think?
Yeah, but we find out when things happen because it doesn't take but a moment. Oh, okay, Maurice. Tell me something good.
I think when things are going good,
Yeah.
it's more important to focus on God because we can get so caught up in God's blessings that we neglect God. And that's when we go in the constant cycle of him having to reprimand us or give us a lesson to get right back to him. And we just go in this circle.
Interesting. You say we get caught up in God's blessings
Yeah.
until we neglect God?
Mhm.
How does that happen?
Human.
So
I said being human.
being human, we do lose focus. We lose sight of what God has done. You know, we move out of that realm of needing God until we think we're doing things on our own, you know, that kind of thing. But you're right. It's a vicious cycle because you get one thing, God can let you go so long and then he do what? He'll reel you in, break you down to your knees. Like what Harold was doing just did. He just didn't hit the ground, but sometimes you hit the ground. And when you hit the ground, when your knees hit the ground, you can tell it, right? Yeah. And your knees hit the ground because you might need to be praying when your knees hit the ground. You know, because you can get to a situation to where you do think you got everything on your own, but that's all right. God got you. God knows. He'll let you know who's in charge.
You saying that reminds me of this one interesting person. No matter how recognized they were in the world or how many awards they achieved or attained, they always gave praise to God. And that was Whitney Houston. Time she got up on that stage, she always made sure to thank God for all that he's done for her.
Even in her latter years?
And in her latter years,
I guess I didn't.
she always gave praise to him. Always. There was
Okay.
never a time when she got on that stage when she acknowledged him.
Well,
Yeah.
that's because she had the kind of foundation that she
She
did
did.
from her mom and her aunt. Is that there's something about the foundation she had, so she didn't forget who God was and who brought her to this point. But as Maurice has said, sometimes we forget what God has done. We get caught up into a vicious cycle, and we think things we did it, but we didn't. Verses 8 and 9 in this next section, please. Someone read that for us. Raise your hand if you want to. Oh.
But as soon as Jeremiah finished telling all the people everything the Lord had commanded him to say, the priests, the prophets, and all the people seized him and said, "You must die. Why do you prophesy in the Lord's name that this house will be like Shiloh and this city will be desolate and deserted?" And all the people crowded around Jeremiah in the house of the Lord.
Now, look at Jeremiah, 17, 18, somewhere along that age. He's prophesying what the Lord has told him. The Lord put the words in his mouth. So he's saying what he needs to say. But look what happened. What the chief priests and whoever was there, what they did, they grabbed him, right? And look at the words that they say. Look at the word they said. You must what?
You must die.
Why? He just said what God has told him to say.
They didn't want to hear what he was saying, though.
So you're saying that it's easier to believe, not to believe the truth. It's easier to believe something else.
True, yeah, true.
Oh, they don't want to believe.
So they did not want to believe what Jeremiah was saying. They
Well-
were reaping in the prophets.
That goes back to what we were saying a few minutes ago. Sometimes it gets so good until you don't have to believe what anything else said because things are going too good. What are you talking about? We're going to be destroyed, like Shiloh, which is a desert place. What do you mean we're going to be destroyed? Things are going too good now. I mean, we got money coming in. We got all kinds of stuff coming in. We're selling this kind of stuff. We got people. We got people under control. You know, we're doing what we want to do. You know, nobody's questioning except for Jeremiah, who's coming on the scene and talking about what thus saith the Lord. If you don't act and straighten up and do right, there's going to be devastation that comes on you. Think about it. they didn't look to the northern kingdom. The Assyrians had already taken over Israel, the northern kingdom, destroyed them, took everything, didn't leave nothing behind. And here they are. Don't think somebody wasn't had their eyes on Judah. That's what Jeremiah was. And, it's like they just ignored what had happened in the northern kingdom. They think, like you say, they got it so good. We ain't got nothing to worry about. And here you up here coming up, stirring up the people, saying some stuff like this. And I don't know who you are or who you think you are that you can sit up here and say this kind of stuff. And so for saying what you're saying, you're going to have to die. You're going to have to die because you're messing up things. Things are going too good right now. We don't need you in here. Haven't you heard people say we don't need you here? I like the Westerns like that when they say, have y'all seen the movie Pale Rider? Pale Rider. Oh yeah, but Clint Eastwood. What I'm recalling that is, the guy who wanted all the land, he had gone out of town to Sacramento to get some land things, whatever they call them, some deeds or something along those lines. And he said, okay, I'm back now. Y'all got all that, you run them out? He said, no, they still up there. A preacher came to town. He said, what? You let a preacher into the camp? Are you crazy? And so I thought about that, how God went to Jeremiah and asked him to do that. And I looked at that and say a preacher got in there and just changed the whole thing. They were about beat down and gone, and the preacher came in and just lifted up their spirits, and they were ready to fight. They were ready to hold on to what they had to hold on to. So it's amazing when God sends his person in town, when God sends his people, it's amazing what it does for the uplifting of your spirit, and it gives you courage and strength, and you can move forward in the name of the Lord without being afraid. And so Jeremiah's here is coming, and he made this statement, but look what happened. The people surrounded him, right? I'm sorry, where did I go? 10? Yeah. 9. The people, see, and the people crowded around Jeremiah in the house of the Lord. So Jeremiah's in here. They see what's going on. They see the leadership messing with Jeremiah. They probably see, why are these older people picking on these younger people like this? The guy's over there by himself. Ain't nobody helping him. And all these people crowded up around here. Here the people are crowded around Jeremiah in the house of the Lord. That seems like, now you can take the crowd two ways. One is they want to hear what Jeremiah has to say. The other is, I said two ways, maybe more than that. The other is that they want to hear what Jeremiah has to say. They want to see why the chief priests want to kill him. And then they may just want to see, you know how it be. One of the things that when I was in school, when there was a fight that occurred, what did everybody do? They don't do that anymore, right? They still fight in schools and stuff. Oh, is that? Pull out a phone? You have to explain that to me when you say pull out a phone. I'm not exactly sure. Oh, and record.
Record it. It's the same thing though. I mean, they want to spread it. They want to see what's going on, share it.
Oh, okay. What
Yeah,
you call it?
something like that.
Oh, what was the word you used?
Viral.
Oh, viral. Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing what cell phones can do now. In the
It
day, we
really
just had
is.
to run to where the fight was. You couldn't see it on the phone or anything like that. And so, but anyway, the crowds occurred. Now, one of the biggest fights I saw was when two girls fought. People didn't care about the guys fighting, but when the girls fought, I don't know why that drew such a big crowd, but it did. Yeah, they're very dramatic. There's hands going everywhere. All I know is stay out of the way. Because I have found out, I saw one guy trying to break up the fight, and both of them jumped on him. He learned this lesson not to break up that kind of fight. But anyway, I'm sorry. We're going to run out of time. Yeah, keep talking. 12 and 13, please.
Then Jeremiah said to all the officials and all the people, the Lord sent me to prophesy against this house and this city, all the things you have heard. Now reform your ways and your actions and obey the Lord your God. Then the Lord will relent and not bring the disaster he has pronounced against you.
Okay, that's fine right there. Now look what Jeremiah is doing. He's taking the opportunity. He's got all these people around him. He got the Jewish officials here. And so he's got the opportunity to say something else that the Lord has said. But look what he said. He said, the Lord sent me to prophesy. It ain't me. I'm not the one that's doing it. It's the Lord that sent this against his house and all the things that you have heard. And I thought it was interesting that you have heard instead of what you have done, but against what you have heard. Now, Jeremiah is gaining all kinds of courage. He's not letting these people who are older, who got more experience, who got more knowledge than he does, he's not letting them control him. He's not letting them intimidate him because he's got God on his side, right? God is the one that put the words on his lips. He said, now, and he told them, he's telling everybody, the people who are there, because he's already got the crowd. And so I find it interesting how the crowd has showed up now and they're around Jeremiah. This is a perfect opportunity to say what God has said. But look what he says here. Reform your ways and your actions and obey the Lord your God. Then the Lord will relent and not bring disaster he has pronounced against you. Now, first of all, they didn't believe what Jeremiah had to say. If they didn't believe what Jeremiah had to say, what disaster? What you mean? God's going to pronounce a disaster against us? As y'all said earlier, things are going too good now. Where? It's like the sun is shining, but there's thunder, clouds, way back in the west that's approaching. They are almost like what Marie said earlier. We ignore God sometimes. And it's almost like they're ignoring the clouds that are coming. They're ignoring the thunder clouds that are coming. They pay no attention what happened to the northern kingdom. And all they see is sunshine and happy days and howdy, howdy, and all that good stuff. And that's what they see. But Jeremiah is taking the issue of saying that God has pronounced disaster against you. It's best that you straighten up your ways and turn around so you don't have that issue coming. But let's see what happens. 14 and 15. Oh, did you throw your head up?
14, it says, as for me, I am in your hands. Do with me whatever you think is good and right. 15. Be assured, however, that if you put me to death, you will bring the guilt of innocent blood on yourselves and on the city and on those who live in it. For in truth, the Lord has sent me to you to speak all these words in your hearing.
Okay, now he's got the attention of all of these people, not only the Jewish officials, but he's got the other people who are listening. Mind you, somebody in the crowd understood what he was saying. Somebody in the crowd believed what he was saying. And so, but the majority of the officials did not. Why would they say you must die because of what he was saying? And so we find God is still using Jeremiah at this point. Remember we talked about that cistern? And I thought this is interesting what he should say. I think he sort of probably saw his demise. Look what he says in 14. As for me, I am in your hands. Do with me whatever you think is good and right. Interesting that Jeremiah would say that. I'm in your hands. You tell me. Do with me whatever you think is good and right. In their eyes, what would be good and right for those who oppose him? Yeah, kill him. That's what would be good and right. Get this fella out of here. Get this young fella out of here. He don't know what he's talking about. Well, I mean, talking about what thus saith the Lord. And we got all these scrolls and stuff that we've been reading all these years. And we got the Mosaic Law and all these things that we know back to back. And here you're going to come up and say, you talking about being destroyed? You talking about God's going to do something to us? what they say, oh, get out of here. I don't know what you're talking about. But look what it said, do what you think is good and right.
He's telling them, he's challenging them in their laws. He's like, okay, you do what you think is good and right, but believe me, he said, but be assured, if you put me to death, the blood of the innocent is going to be on you and the city. So yes, he's throwing out a challenge.
Yeah, he is throwing a challenge, and that's what he does. And and that's what God does. If you think I'm not who I think I am, you ever try to challenge God about some things? You ever dared God to do some things? Some people try to do that. They try to dare God to do certain things. That is a no-no.
That's a no-no. It's one thing when you trust and believe in God, but it's another thing when you test him. Don't
Oh,
do
so
it.
you said it's not a wise thing to test God.
No, it is not. He is God. Mm-mm.
You can ask questions. He's there for us.
Of
so we
course.
can ask him questions,
Of course.
but
We
not-
find Jeremiah really asked that question. As a matter of fact, he told God, he said, I can't do this. I'm too young. Who's going to pay attention to me? So yeah, you're right. You can do that. We can always ask God questions. But when you start challenging God, you try to test God, that's a path that you really don't want to go down. There's a danger in doing that, because God will show up and show out if you don't watch it. You don't believe it, get into a hurricane, get into a tornado, or anything like that. You sure you want God to come up and you sure you want to challenge God? That kind of thing. So you got to be careful when you test God. Jeremiah is doing whatever God is telling him to do. He's gotten courage to stand in front of all of these people and say what thus saith the Lord, regardless of what's going to happen to his life. And I said earlier, Jeremiah did all of this talking, but Jeremiah was very emotional when he talked, when he prophesied. And the thing about it is he had so many things going on. And I know it still stuck to him as to why he never could get married, why he never could have children, because that's something that's of the culture that he's living in. And I don't know, this may be a question that y'all may not want to answer. Have you ever seen someone that you knew was just yours and you couldn't have them? What, did I say something? Person, someone, not something, someone. I'm looking at Jeremiah now because Jeremiah is struggling. Jeremiah has a personal thing that's going on too, because he really wanted to get married. I mean, I saw a story of Jeremiah once, and he had this young lady that he really, really wanted to marry with. And so he struggled with that. So yeah, I asked that question. Sister Glee, were you going to answer that question?
I don't know about answering that question, but I do know that sometimes I guess God puts in front of you some
Right.
kind of way,
Yes,
someone who you may think
you may
that-
think.
yeah, someone who you may think is the
The one.
person that he's sending to you.
But
I mean, I cannot answer that like that, but if you feel that, I think that he will show you that in more ways than one.
I agree.
If that is that person. It's not truly what you need.
And I was going exactly right. God has a way, if you have selected someone who you think is the one, God will show you all kinds of stuff that's related to that person. Now it's up to you if you still decide to push forward. But discernment is such a key. And you got to be attuned to what God is telling you. You got to be attuned to that, because you can just, what's that phrase? Love is blind. Why is love blind? Oh, Sister God, you can answer that one.
Love is not blind, but
Oh,
you can sometimes have, as Dr. Patrick was saying, you can have rose-colored glasses on, and
What-
you can be,
what make them rose colored?
you're not seeing clearly.
Oh, okay, that's it
Meaning-
clearly.
And that's exactly it. you see this person and you think that's the person, but if you actually sat and discerned the,
It's red flags. You'll see purple flags flying, green flags flying, and then you choose to ignore those.
Oh, you
Prayer
see?
discernment is just stick the prayer discernment. God will guide you every time.
One thing about God, he does put these flags out there for you to see. And like you say, you mess around and put some rose-colored glasses on, you can't see a flag at first. And that's what happens. Jeremiah is faced with this. Jeremiah is struggling with this still. So he's struggling with his age. He's struggling with the fact that he can't get married. And he's struggling with the fact that God has put him out here in front of all these people who are far more knowledgeable than he is. But Jeremiah has an advantage. He has God on his side because God is the one that's putting the words in his mouth. So that's what gives him courage. And the thing about it, God always has somebody out there for you. Now, Jeremiah was sentenced to die. He must die. They even put him in a cistern so he could die. But there was somebody in the crowd, some officials who took pity on Jeremiah. And because they took pity on him, his life was spared because not everybody wanted him to die. And God is trying to tell each and every day, us each and every day, about our daily lives and how we carry them. If you don't carry them in a certain way, then there is destruction that's coming. And the Israelites, the ones in Judah, didn't believe that because they had it too good. But God did not, even though Jeremiah might have been put in a prison or whatever, he did not let the Babylonian exile was coming. It's still on track. And they were blind. They had rose-colored glasses on. They didn't see it coming. Storms brewing in the west. They didn't see it coming. And that thing is, Jeremiah was trying to tell them, but God, don't test him because he will see things to the end. And that's what he did. Our lesson has to end here. We thank you so very much for your input this morning. Thank you for being awake and talking to me this morning. We appreciate it. Our prayer is, Lord, you know us intimately. May we yield our hearts to his loving relationship and find ways to serve you and your people. May we never be fearful, but always faithful. We pray in the name of the innocent one who was faithful unto death, Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. Our thought to remember and not fear. Okay, I agree. Because when you're scared, where's God? All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Perkins. We do appreciate that. Do we have any announcements forthcoming? Any announcements forthcoming?
all right, the Huntsville district's minister spouses are going to be doing a charity project for the year, for the end of the year. We're going to be asking that our zone, which is zone 4, bring in hats, gloves, scarves, mittens. There's a box outside in the Star Bless area that's got Christmas wrapping paper on it. It's red and white, has a Christmas tree on it. So if you're out and about, pick up a hat, pick up a pair of gloves, adult or children, throw them in the box. And we are going to give those to elementary schools. The food is going to go to the food pantry, and the clothing will go to the homeless shelters along with the toiletries. So if you'll help us with our project, we'll greatly appreciate it. Thank you. We're going to bring all the items together by December 5th at the Fall Accounting meeting.
December 5th. And those are due in. And it's going to be in the Star Bless area. Wrap funds. All right, any other announcements at this time? Any other announcements at this time? Okay. If there not be any other announcements at this point in time, maybe all bow our heads with hearts and minds, please. To him who is able to keep you from stumbling and to present you before his glorious presence without fault and with great joy. To the only God, our Savior, be glory, majesty, power, and authority through Jesus Christ, our Lord, before all ages, now and forevermore. Amen.